Sorry about that. We had a little interruption. Miss North, if you ever need me for anything, and I mean anything at all you have to do is ask. That is what I'm here for. She stood up and took a few steps towards Darlin. You've been doing so well over the last couple months. Don't ruin all the progress you've made here. Darlin turned out to be her test paper and smiled. Thank you, it won't happen again, Darlin replied. Now may I ask you what in the world you were dreaming about? Oh, I don't remember, Darlin responded, as her white skin reddened with embarrassment. Miss North looked down at Darlin's answer and said, well, happy birthday, and get out of here. Darlin quickly noticed that she had an A+ mark and slipped it into her pink pack sack as she beelined it for the door. Coming out into the hallway, Darlin was quickly met up with Kaylee and Winter, her two best friends at St. Mary's, or should I say, partners in crimes. Both girls were dressed in their standard issued white shirts with black skirts, and there was little these girls could do to individualize themselves like Darlin. They did not have the imagination. Kaylee, being a very pretty blonde girl, would always wear an array of headbands in her hair, but that was her limit. Winter, on the other hand, although blonde too, was always painting her nails to give her a little bit of personality. While fumbling about her book bag, Winter asked Darlin, do you want me to come enjoy the sun with us? Do you want to come out and enjoy the sun with us? Yeah, sure, Darlin responded, but I have to go back to the dorms to grab Disco first. And as the three made their way down the stairwell, Darlin asked, what's up with the airplane note, Dorothy? What the heck what are you guys getting at? The two girls laughed and Kaylee replied, well, while you were sleeping in class, you started mumbling about in your desk, repeating over and over, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. They all broke out in laughter. Darlin turned absolutely red. She's like, are you serious? Winter then added, while still fumbling about her book bag, you totally went Wizard of Oz on us back there. Just as they approached the first floor doors, Darlin could feel her face turning red again with embarrassment as the two girls continued to giggle. She really liked to be in control, and others laughing at her expense always bugged her. Hey, Darlin, what time are your parents coming to get you? Probed Kaylee. They should be here as soon as school gets out, but you know my mom, she's so pee-junk, she probably won't even come at all. Where's the note from Bobby? Did you take it to Kaylee? Winter, finally she took her eyes out of her book bag, and I think that you've left it on your desk. Kaylee laughed out loud. Oh no, Mrs. North will be reading that. No, it's right here in my hand. I'm so stupid. Thank God, if she would have read that note, we would be in trouble. What did the North say to you anyway, Darlin? Well, I dodged a bullet on that one. I told her it was my birthday today. And I was up all night because I hadn't seen my mom since Christmas. So she let me off easy with a minor lecture. You know how she could go on. Now on the first floor, three approached Darlin's room. Now on the first floor, the three approached Darlin's room. They could hear the barking of one little Miss Disco, Darlin's one true friend in the world. When Darlin opened the door, a big puff of powder billowed out of the room. From the powdery haze popped Disco. She had Darlin's powder puff shaking all about her mouth, all over the room. Disco, being a great and powerful noise machine she was, weighed in at about 2.5 pounds and stood a towering 6 inches tall. Disco was a black and white papillon. She had long, scraggly ear hair going down her little speckled feet. Her tiny bark was humorous, and Disco, mostly black in color, or mostly white. I still can't make up my mind on that. One of the cutest attributes about her was her white speckled paws, with what seemed to have black freckles. She had a solid black head, and as far as I'm concerned, might as well been a shapeshifter. Sometimes mimicking the look of a baby seal, then a skunk, and that cute little scat from Ice Age from time to time after a bath. When soaking wet, she resembled a drowning rat as well. Disco's tricks consisted of sitting pretty, stealing food, and being noticed by even a video camera. Don't know what happened there. Disco, what the heck are you doing? Scowled Darlin. Disco, being a master of manipulation, simply tilted her head and slightly dropped the puff and sneezed powder out of her nose, melting Darlin's heart as well as any trace of anger that she had once had. Aw, how cute. All three got on their knees. You want to go outside for potty? Disco responded with a double bark and ran over to her closet and nudged for her diamond leash. Yes, a diamond leash. These people were highly rich. Darlin placed it around Disco's neck and then snapped the collar on, and the three of them proceeded out of the dorm room. Let's go out back, Darlin suggested. Hey, if your mom isn't coming till after school, why don't we cut class and go for a latte, offered Kaylee. Winter quickly added, we may as well. All we're doing in class is watching war movies because it's Memorial Day. Darlin played with the idea for about 1 second and responded, I don't know if we should push my luck. I just dodged that bullet with Miss North. You're going to be gone all weekend, and besides, it's your birthday, Kaylee pressed in her whiny voice. We aren't going to see you on your birthday. You may as well at least let us take you out for an ice cap, added Winter. After hemming and hawing over it for a few seconds, Darlin nodded her head in agreement, but quickly objected. No drivers. We'll have to catch a cab. Follow me. I don't want anyone to see us leaving the grounds. The two of them followed Disco and Darlin as they walked down what is known as Executioner's Row. They were in a cobblestone path which ran parallel to the school, which 100 years ago prisoners were walked down to the hillside of the courthouse for their public executions. I guess that's why they called entrapment back then. Spelling mistake. For they used to come by the thousands to see a criminal hang. Oh, that's what they called entertainment back then, because people used to come by the thousands to watch criminals hang. The old courthouse oozed with authority. It was an architectural treasure in the city of Kansas. I suppose that's why it was chosen for a boarding school for the rich. It had a massive water fountain in front of it, which a 25-foot brass statue of a twister that trickled out water off the top of it. The brass was stained green with time due to years of weathering. This thing looked old. The plaque on the front of the statue stated that the monument was from a 1850s wooden courthouse, which was destroyed by a twister in 1870 that claimed the life of a local professor experimenting with hot air balloons. As I choked to death, I'll continue reading. As the girls continued marching down the hill, the smell of the city streets of Kansas began to fill their nose. The smog that day was quite pungent. By the time they reached the massive hedge that completely encompassed the property, the smell of the heat in the air covered their skin and was putting on a layer of sweat, kind of like a hot summer day. Humidity The air made you feel instantly like you were sweating. Darlin looked around to see if any teachers were about, then moved a small part of the hedge to reveal her own personal exit. As soon as the girls crossed the hedge, they were on the downtown sidewalk, seeing taxis driving by. Winter held up her arm. There's a taxi. There's a taxi. Immediately, they could see the cab slow down and hear the tires squeal as it did a U-turn and pulled up to them. Kaylee complained, this better have air conditioning. I don't see why we couldn't have just took the limo. Kaylee was the most prissy of the group. She tended to complain more than Darlin and Winter. Darlin quickly motioned to Disco to jump into her arms. Then the three girls hopped into the back of the taxi. "Where to, ladies?" the creepy cab driver asked in some kind of foreign accent. The three girls answered simultaneously, "To the Country Club Plaza," then laughed because they had done so. As the cab accelerated, Darlin drowned out the sounds of the city streets with the voices of her friends and the cabbie. She began to daydream about her birthday. At first, it was about how she was going to be able to spend time with her friends back home, but quickly turned into thoughts to how she could spend time with her mom. Darlin really missed her mom, even though she was never there for her. She thought maybe with her officially becoming a young lady this year, her mom would have more in common with her, and she would finally find interest in her for the first time in her life. She sat. You want me to continue, or are you going to sleep?
I'm listening.
Okay. She sat staring out the window, contemplating these things to herself. You see, this had to be an internal process. Darlin always had to project to her friends that she did not need her mom, that it was Darlin's fault, and that two weren't that close. This, of course, was untrue, but at least her friends thought it was like that, and that's all that mattered to Darlin. This is a common defense mechanism for most young girls her age. You see, Darlin always led people to believe that she had never bothered her, but that she was never a priority for her mother. Darlin let everyone think that her life was just the way that she wanted it. She kinda liked having her friends be so envious of her. She made her extravagant lifestyle seem so fun and carefree that all of her friends would be absolutely shocked if they knew how truly sensitive she was inside. When they arrived down at the plaza, the first thing the girls did was walk down to Boiler Street, an infamous shopping strip in uptown Kansas City. It was the only original part left of the new shopping development that had suddenly replaced the old retail area. The street was only 1 block long and was the entranceway to the new plaza. There was only about 10 buildings that had survived the new development. The shops in them themselves were a collection of high-end fashion stores that gave originality to the mall. Darlin loved it because she would always find at least one thing she wanted in these unique shops. None of her Hollywood friends knew about this place, so she did have that edge on them when she had picked something up unique.